Ever since getting into Web3 gaming, I've been looking for two things in particular. One was a football, or soccer for my American friends, game that I could get really stuck into, and I found that with Footium. The other was a horse racing game. So I've been looking, I tried Zed, it wasn't for me, I've been patiently waiting, and I finally found the answer. Ladies and gents, welcome to Photo Finish Live. Good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. You're back to the channel, thank you for visiting. The name is Moza and this is another newbie video with a difference. Originally I was going to potentially have a little spoiler on there of I may stay and play, I may not stay and play. If you have a look at the channel art, you'll see Photo Finish is already there. Going forward, the two major games on here will be Photo Finish Live and Footium. Horse racing is something that I have always loved, always been involved in through my mum's side. She used to ride horses. I love a day at the races. My wife now loves a day at the races. We've been to the Cheltenham Festival, we've been to the Aintree Grand National and to various race courses around the UK, enjoying ourselves, having a bit of a bet, a bit of a flutter, and generally it's a great day out. I really recommend it. However, up until this point, the only gaming experience that I've really enjoyed with horse racing is a PC game called Starter's Orders that has been going for years and years. We're about to see the 8th version of it. And essentially what you do in that is you own your horses, you breed your horses, you choose the races, and you try and make some money. Funnily enough, Photo Finish Live is the Web3 spiritual version of Starter's Orders, which I think is why it's really got me. So let me start with the basics. In Photo Finish Live, when you sign up, you create a stable. You name the stable whatever you want, you put your own logo on, that'll be shown on the jockey silks and races, you pick your own designs and colours, and there you're ready to go. By the way, through this video you will see a QR code up in that corner. I had to look to check which one. That will be a recommendation, a referral link from myself. If you go through that link, you'll get a free trainer horse to get started. This is a good point to bring it in, because what is a trainer horse? There are free money races as well as the real thing in Photo Finish. My first recommendation is, if you're going to give this a go, do what I did. Do a couple of races with that trainer horse, do not put any money in, get a feeling, get a grip of how the game works, and after that make your decision on whether you're going to stick some money in and give it a go. Whether you're making use of the free races with your trainer horse, or you buy a horse on the marketplace and go into the real money races, it's still the same goal at the end of the day for Photo Finish Live. You have three ways generally of making money in the game, trying to turn a profit. You can win money through races. If your horse comes in the top 3 or 4, depending on the size of field. The maximum is 12 horses. If there's less than 12 horses, it may be the top 3 that get paid. Sometimes the third place horse might not get paid back the entry fee, so bear that in mind. You may need to come top 2 to guarantee a profit in a race. Also, you can win money by betting. It's called picks in the game. So just like when you go to a race course, you can look at the horses, look at the card, make a choice and decide if you're putting a bet on it to win, to come top 2 or top 3. There is a brilliant community tool for that as well that I will make sure I link in the description, that produces race cards with information for every race. Finally, you can breed horses and sell them on the marketplace. So be that if you have a horse you've run into the ground that you want to sell on, or if you produce a brand new horse, a foal, you can then sell that on as well. The buying and selling of horses is now its all-time cheapest, which is a good time for new guys like myself to get in. I'm not sure that I would have got so involved with this game a couple of years ago because I had the chance and I didn't at the time. What attracted me this time was not just the community being really good. You will look through X, you will look through everywhere social media and you'll find Photo Finish. The community is pretty rabid in a good way, they love the game, but the entry prices come right down. Whereas before, you'd probably be paying in the hundreds of dollars for a decent horse. Now you can pick one up for under $100. If you play your cards right, you can probably get away with putting a couple of $100 in to get a decent start in the game, but we'll cover that shortly. Let's start with how the game actually works. So to keep it simple, you own your horses. You may have one, you may have several. If you want to put them in races, you go through their profile, click the preferred races so it filters down what your horse likes, and then keep an eye on the weather conditions. There are several variables that I'll cover shortly with every race that means you can give your horse a better chance or a worse chance of doing well. But ultimately you go through, you boot them into races, and then you hope for the best when the race time comes around. So I mentioned different aspects that can affect how a horse does when racing. You'll notice that every horse has 3 star ratings. 1 is for direction, 1 is for surface, and 1 is for ground conditions. Every horse will either prefer going left or right because there are 4 different types of general race in Photo Finish Live. 2 of those types involve whether it's going left or right. The other 2 are the ground type, either turf, grass for those of us in the UK, or artificial or dirt as it's known in Photo Finish. A lot of the terms you'll notice in this game are based on American racing. It is a flat racing game. It does not have jumps or hurdles in it as yet. I think that would be a major expansion possibility in the future, but for now it is just a flat game. So you're thinking Epsom Derby, you'd be thinking Glorious Goodwood, these types of races in the UK is built on that style, with the numbering system following the American style of different colours for different numbers. It makes it easy to tell which horses are doing well and which are doing badly when you're watching back the races. Other things to consider when it comes to picking a race for your horse are the distance. So you may find the perfect horse that's going left, that likes dirt races, that wants soft ground weather. There's a race that you see has 100% chance of rain, everything seems perfect, and they run a dud because you put them in a 4 furlong sprint when they should be in a 12 furlong more endurance type of race. So how can you work out what a horse prefers? So there's 2 ways of looking at this. One, if they have previously run races, go into the horse's profile, have a look at their history, and you'll be able to see what's called fleet figures, or FF for short. This is a really handy tool. It's not the be all and end all though, don't fully rely on it, because it gives you a number out of 100 to roughly rank how well a horse has run in a certain race. So that also takes into account direction, surface, weather conditions. So everything is part of that, bear that in mind. But it does give you an idea of whether a horse prefers, say, a 12 furlong long race, maybe a middle ground 6-7 furlong, or a 4 furlong sprint. 4 and 12 are the minimum and maximum lengths of race, so bear that in mind as well. The other way you can try and get a handle on it, especially if it's a young horse you've bought that is untested, unraced, if you go into the bloodlines section, you will see the parents of the horse. You can check what they ran, their stats, their various figures as well, and try and make a prediction based on that of whether your horse will follow suit. So for example, I had a foal that has just started racing this current season of Photo Finish. I looked at the parents. The mother preferred 11, 12 furlong long races. The father preferred 8 furlong, 9 furlong races. So I've been going in between those two, trying to find the happy level. I think I found it at 10 or 11, but it might take a few races just to work out which is best for your horse. A couple of other just little tips to bear in mind. Horses cannot race until they're 2 years old. At the point they are 2 years old, they can enter juvenile races, and I would stick to that. You have juvenile maidens, which maidens mean it's a race for a horse that's never won a race before. As soon as it's won one, it can no longer enter another maiden race. Or you've got juvenile stakes. I'll go into the race types a bit more in a future video, I feel like. I'll leave a link down below to a guide that I saw on X the other day, which is a really good breakdown of the different race types and the things to consider with horses' age as well. But to keep it nice and simple, you have your normal stakes races that are just may the best horse win. You have stakes with conditions on there. If it says it's a benchmark restricted, that FF figure we gave you earlier on or talked about, it's based on that. You can only get in with a certain number or below, so horses that might not be doing as well can get a chance. You have grade restricted, so every horse has a grade. All the way up, you could eventually end up with 3 S's being the highest. Right now the highest grade in the game is SS minus, and going down from there all the way to D level. I believe we've got C level horses but not D level horses yet. Some horse races will be only for A grade, some will be only for S grade, etc, etc. If you want an A grade horse, like I do, you do not want to run against S grade horses unless it's a specific race type. If it is a stakes race, you want to avoid that at all costs. Other race types, you have handicaps, which for us in the UK, we understand, nice and simple. If your horse is lower graded, the handicapper will try and put extra weight on the better horses to give every single horse an equal fair chance of winning that race. Doesn't always play out that way though. Generally, the lower grade horses have a better chance of winning, is my experience, in handicap races. You have allowance races, which are similar, although a set amount of weight is added per grade of horse, so you get more chance for the better horses to win in allowance races. Or if you have a better lower grade horse that is perfectly geared towards that race, it may do very well. And you also have claimer races. Claimer races exist in UK racing as well. We will be well versed in it. If it is a 15k claimer race, for example, if you put your horse into that race, someone else can put a claim on them for that 15k and buy them off you, regardless of what they do in that race. It's a selling race. If you want to sell your horse potentially at a set price, you put it in there, or you take the risk of putting it in there to try and win and hope that it isn't claimed. It is risky. Final thing though, photo finish live usually follows real racing in terms of race types, in terms of what racetracks look like. They've got a little bit of creative license so now with the race types. There are now knockout races. These are all or nothing, where 12 horses can go into a knockout race, only one can win, and that one winner races on. Every other horse in that race is retired, and it does not stay with the owner. It goes to the third time pasture. The third time are the game makers, essentially the developers. So if you basically want rid of a horse, or you want to try and go for a jackpot and take a chance, the knockout races are there. Exercise extreme caution. If you see hardcore under a race, you're probably going to lose your horse. So that's a very basic overview of how racing works and photo finish. Breeding is pretty self-explanatory. If you have a mare, a female horse, 3 years of age or older, you can breed that horse. You need to pay a breeder's fee, bear in mind. I'll get into the currency shortly to explain how that works. Basically, the minimum fee is 4,000 Derby to the stud. So whoever owns the male horse that you want to breed your female horse with will get that money. There is an extra 800 fee on top that goes to the game, to the rake, essentially. You'll notice in every race a rate goes to the game developers as well to keep things running. But breeding is relatively simple when you get there. You should not be thinking about that initially, in my opinion. I'll cover what I've done shortly, but let's focus first on the money, on the currency side of things and how that works as well. So photo finish is based on the Solana blockchain. When I've covered Futium, it's based on a layer 2 of Ethereum. Solana is very different. You will likely need a different wallet than what I've talked about previously, MetaMask. So first things first, I have picked up a Phantom wallet, which tends to be the most widely used Solana wallet. Works in very much the same way. It's actually a lot simpler, to be honest, than MetaMask. What you will need is in there to have USDC, which is a stable coin. $1 is $1. It shouldn't change in value. So it makes it easier to work out what you're putting in and what you're taking out compared to, for example, Futium. In the game itself, you will notice there are 2 different types of currency mentioned. One is Derby. Derby is the in-game currency. It is very easy for us in the UK because around about, this is approximate, 1 Derby is 1 pence. So for our American friends, they need to work out exchange rates for it. Right now we don't. If you are putting money in, £10 is 1,000 Derby, give or take a pound or two here and there. So it makes things so much easier for us in the UK. If you're elsewhere in the world, essentially 80 Derby is $1, and you can work it out from there. With your own exchange rates, you can obviously try and get an easier tally on there with that. So that's how you put your money in. Everything in the game bought and sold uses Derby. So that's something to consider. You'll need to be aware, if you're not UK based, of how much Derby corresponds to how much of your own local currency, so you can keep tabs. In the stable menu, there is a really good bit that gives you all your stable financials. It breaks it down by season as well, so you can see if you're making profit or loss on the racetrack and profit or loss off the racetrack. Spoiler alert, your first couple of seasons you're likely to make a loss. I've seen very few stables make profit out the gate because you need to buy the horses before you race them, and buying the horses is going to cost more generally than putting them into races and winnings you can get back. I was lucky enough in my first season to essentially break even on the racing. The second season so far I'm in profit on the racing, but I have put a pretty big outlay into horses, as you'll see from my stable. There are a lot of them in there, and there are a couple of mares that are now pregnant for foals to be produced as well. So you're not going to make money out the gate. It is going to be a game of patience, and not everyone can win. This is something that Web3 gamers are always guilty of in my experience. They expect to win. Everyone expects to win. For there to be winners, there have to be losers. So you need to be strategic, take in all the information from all the sources you can to try and filter out what you want to do, how you want to play the game, because if you just take random shots here and there, you'll lose money. That's the long and short of it, unless you get really lucky. You need to have a strategy going in, and you need to stick to it. One last thing, I did say there was 2 currencies in game. You'll also see Crown referred to. Crown is not an in-game currency. Crown is a fully fledged cryptocurrency in its own right. So it sits on Solana. You receive Crown as a bonus for entering races. The bigger races get paid out more Crown. In my first season, I entered around about 40 races in total. That does include some free trainer races as well. I got given about 150 Crown as racing rewards. Right now it's trading around about $0.50. It has been over $1 in the past. I am not going to stand here and tell you where it's going because I'm not a financial advisor, but it's another reward to consider. So when you include that into your profit and loss calculations, or when I did for season 1, I made a profit. But what can you do with that Crown? So 2 things. You can hold on to it in the game and stake it. The racetracks are owned by owners, they're not owned by the game, so it's decentralised that way. You can stake your Crown in there and get a share of the earnings from everyone entering those races. You'll get paid out Derby at the end of every season. I should say the seasons last 28 days, 4 weeks every time, and that means that horses age every 28 days by 1 year as well. So you have that option, or you can simply withdraw it and sell it, change it for another crypto, do whatever you want with it. It's yours. You've earned that through playing the game. It's a nice little bonus. That's the way you should see it. You should see it as a bonus. Personally, I am staking all my Crown and I'm just letting it ride, letting it grow, see what happens. If the time comes where I want to sell it, I will, but I'm in no great rush to do so right now because I'm going to be in this game long term. So I feel like I've rambled on a little bit now. I think I've given you a decent overview of how the game works, what to expect, maybe what to think about before getting started. If you're looking for potential strategies, there is a page on the Photo Finish website that gives you some possible ways to look at getting going. One last thing, I will cover what I'm going to do now that I've dabbled on everything. I deliberately did one of everything that you can do in the game to try and learn the mechanics of it, including claiming a horse from a claiming race, including buying a foal, including buying horses to race straight away, now bred horses as well. So having done a little bit of everything, this is what I've settled on. You're welcome to do the same thing or find your own path So I am focusing on left dirt horses. Not particularly for any reason, just that those were the horses that were available at the right price when I looked on the marketplace. I kind of fell into it that way, and I've got a really good left dirt horse that YSM gifted me in bluey white stripes, so thank you again to those guys, top guys. Go and follow them and get subscribed to their stuff as well. They do spaces, they do podcast type content, as do lots of the community as well. There's all sorts of help out there. But I have automatically fell into left dirt, so I may as well focus on that as my initial game, my aims in the game. I do have a couple of right turf horses. I could follow that in future, but we'll wait and see. I am focusing on A grades. If you want to get involved in the top levels, S, S+, SS- grades, the highest graded horse in the game, you're going to have some bankroll. I don't have that bankroll, not right now at least. So I am going to specifically focus on A and A+ graded horses in those restricted stakes that I mentioned earlier on, so they won't be racing against the S horses. Trying to get the best horses I can in those levels of A and A+. So far it seems to be working. There's a long time to go though. I do have one horse in Bluey that I mentioned that is kind of helping me out and balancing the scales early, because out of 13 races, 2 of which were just trying to find out how long it liked to run, it has podiumed 10 times. So it's constantly making bank, and long may that continue. I do have another horse that seems more suited to claimer races, and it will continue to claim races until somebody claims it or it retires. Generally around about the age of 5 or 6, you'll notice that horses will fall off a cliff, they'll get worse, and they're ready to retire. At that point you can sell them to someone else, you can retire them and see their grades. You can't see their grades until they retire for their individual stats. And this is a good point to bring that in, because my other focus is on those stats. When it comes to breeding, I am going to try and breed up slowly, but I want to make either sprinters or endurance racers. And how to do that, I want to have heart and temper around about the same level as a grade. So say if it's an A horse, I would want at least A temper, which is its consistency, it's not going to go mad, and heart, which is its, well, what it sounds like, it's heart. If it's in a big race, a big field, how likely it is to do well. I, for a sprinter, want start and speed to be higher than the grade that is listed. So for an A horse, I would want A+ for those at a minimum. The opposite, if it's an endurance horse, I would want finish and stamina to be those grades higher than the actual grade. And I can slightly neglect the other two that it's not. That's the idea, that's the concept. We'll go with it. Breeding is not an exact science. Your horses can get worse, they can get better, they can exceed what you're expecting, they can be a lot lower than what you're expecting. The other thing with breeding that I'll mention very briefly, avoid inbreeding. Why? I think we know why. Let's move on swiftly. So, finish up, I will show you where I am right now with my stable overall. You'll see there is a significant outlay on the horse buying side, and on the racing side, I believe this will show at the time that I am overall in profit. And then when you throw the crown in there, the profit is higher again as well. So it's going well, but it's going well because I've had to make a significant initial outlay into the game. Something else to bear in mind budget wise, if you don't have that amount of outlay to throw into things, only go with what you want. So say if you only want to put £100 in to start, $100, look for the horses that will go into low amount races. Handicaps are generally very cheap races. If you can find a restricted stakes for an A horse, it'll be a lot cheaper than a restricted stakes race for an S horse. The lower grade the race is, the cheaper it'll be. You may want to focus on B grade initially for the kind of cheaper end, and then build up through breeding like I'm trying to do, because I am not going to have the bankroll to buy S horses. I will need to create those S horses to get up there. There's a variety of ways you can do it. You can also try and make bankroll through picks, through betting on the big races. There are several creators who stream these races live. Doughboy is one that I follow and watch pretty regularly. His focus is, when he's streaming, on the betting side. I've learnt a lot from him. I've also learnt a lot of how not to bet, wink. And, sorry Doughboy. There are other guys who will do podcasts on breeding, on kind of getting the best information that you can get. My friend JG Webb, Emerald Aussie as he may be known elsewhere, does a podcast where he speaks to the guys who know their stuff, who have had success already, who have made a fortune off this game, and they're giving you tips. Don't ignore them. Pick them up. Trying to get them, because the more that you know, the more chance you have of being successful, so long as you stick to your strategy. So there's no real spoiler here. This is going to be a mainstay of the channel going forward. I'll cover my journey, I'll cover any changes to my philosophies, my strategies, any particularly big events. I will aim to get into one of those majors at some point, but that will be a way down the line. Every race type, so left dirt, left turf, right dirt, right turf, has a major 1 week of the season. The big one being the left dirt Kentucky Derby. If I have accidentally fallen into this, that's going to be the ultimate aim. Want to get a horse into the virtual Kentucky Derby. I will see what I can do. In future, this game has so much potential. If my only recommendation to Ian and the guys, by the way, I'll also link a podcast that Ian did, which is great to listen to and probably tells you why I'm so excited about the future of this one. If the guys find a way of bringing British racing and UK racing with fences and hurdles, it will create a whole new dimension to it, because it'll also let entry-level guys like myself have more of a chance of winning. If they can find a way of linking with Cheltenham, like they've linked up with Kentucky for the Derby, imagine a virtual Cheltenham festival where the fences will take out horses here and there, giving the lower grade horses a chance. The big handicaps, you could have a handicap big stakes race like the Grand National, for example. There are all sorts of possibilities if they bring in hurdles and fences, and that's an automatic leveller of things as well, because flat racing can be quite predictable at times, and I like chaos. What can I say? But if you're still here, thank you very much for staying with me and watching along. I realise it's been a bit of a longer video, but I wanted to cover as much as I can. I haven't gone fully into detail. That will happen in future weeks, where I'll break down specific topics. We'll go into grades a bit more, we'll go into race types a bit more. I'll cover my own experiences with it as well, and maybe a few other guys if I can persuade them to come on and give us a little bit of alpha information. If you have any advice for me, or just any suggestions on what you'd like to see, please comment down below. Every like on a video helps, every comment on a video helps to spread the word, and also consider subscribing. There'll be more photo finish as well as more Footium to come soon. There will be a Footium video shortly covering the previous beta as we approach full launch in most likely September for Footium as well. But until then, this has been the Moza Robertson YouTube channel. I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you'll subscribe to come back again, and have a good one. Adios.